As I said earlier, we're going to be doing 3 weeks on being all in. And I kind of wonder, what does that look like? And I'm going to start the whole 3 weeks by giving you the question that I want you to ask yourself all of the time. And that is, what have you been doing with Jesus? And what will you do from now moving forward to eternity with Jesus? And what I mean is, he has given you life. He has forgiven you, right? You don't deserve that love and that mercy, but he sent Jesus, right? For God so loved the world, he gave his only son. We believe in him, we trust in him, but what are we going to do about that? How is that going to change our lives? Because I believe that's what stewardship is. It's a fancy word, but I think what it really means is, what do you do with Jesus? Do we just hear it and go, "Oh, that's cool. That makes me feel good," and then I just go on like it didn't happen? Because I think if we can grab one thing from the Bible, it's that it's meant to change everything. It's meant for us to look at our lives and go, "All right, Jesus, I am all in with this thing." And I found a great example of that just last week. My oldest, Jacob, bought me tickets to see Iron Maiden at Wells Fargo Center, right? So, been following this band since the early 80s, okay? Heavy metal band, crazy stuff. 20,000 people in the Wells Fargo cheering and singing the songs. And what struck me as I was driving home and earlier in the week, I kept thinking to myself, I had a very different reaction to that show than I would have 40 years ago, right? 40 years ago, when I was actually younger than my kids who I went with. See, I would have gone, and magically the music fairies made the equipment all work, and they just go like that, and the speakers are up, the mixing consoles are there, the band just magically appears and they play, and I just go, "Wow, great show. I'm a big fan." That would have been my reaction as a kid. But as an old guy, I don't know what happens to us. I think I become my dad. Because I'm looking around and I'm like, the enormity of what it must have taken to get all of that for me to enjoy. And all of us. Miles of cables and speakers and right, and these guys had to, that's what all in looks like. That's what commitment looks like. Now you might say, well, the road crew and all the people, the technicians and all those people, they do it to get paid. Trust me, the guy who tunes their guitars and changes the strings, right? The guy who has to, move all the cable and do all that stuff, he's not making a fortune. He is not doing it for the money. And I know, because I would love, if I was single, man, right? If I would have gone on the road with them. Yeah, let me lift the speakers. Let me get it all set up. That'd be awesome. I'd do that for free. Just pay me with food and a place to live. That's all in. Could you imagine that? You have to take it all out of the truck, set it all up, pack it in the truck, and then drive to the next town. And on and on and on and on it goes. It's a limited picture of what all in looks like, but you can kind of get the idea. Horrible hotel rooms, right? Eating Taco Bell every day. That's the life for some of these guys. They're not taking a bow at the end of the show. The band looks really good. But all the other people, all that commitment, no one knows who they are. I couldn't tell you who they were, but I saw what they did. And I was like, man, so much we could learn, right, with this stewardship thing, with this church thing. All in, all of us doing what we're supposed to do, right? So that someone else could shine. So that God can be glorified. Not just a band, but the Lord himself. That we will be working and dealing with uncomfortable things, right? And maybe the other road crew person snores like a bear, and you got to deal with that, but you're like, no, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. For the love of this, for the love of God, that we would do these things. That's what all in is. All in is Elijah and the widow of Zarephath. Did you catch that in the reading? That's like one of my favorite Bible readings from Kings. Oh my goodness. There's a drought. And again, the prophet's got to let the world know, hey, there's not going to be any rain. It kind of feels like that. Somebody pointed out after the first service, he was like, my brother Anthony was like, Pastor, how incredible that there's a drought in there. It hasn't rained here in 40 days or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's what it feels like. And the commitment to God, the trust in God that we see from that widow and from Elijah. Because I don't know about you, but if God said, I want you to go to a poor widow in this place and she's going to feed you, I'd be like, she's a widow, God. There's a drought. There's a famine. Send me to somebody who has some resources, right? Send me to someone with maybe a cool hotel or like a B&B. That would be cool. B&B, right? With a little crew that's going to give me food every day. Set me up. I'll stay there as long as you need me to, Jesus. That's not it. In fact, when he gets there, what is she doing? She's picking up sticks. Not a good sign. And so he's like, hey, can you get me something, a glass of water? And she's like, and this is astounding. She says, well, okay, I got a little bit of flour. I got a little bit, this is what I'm up to today. This was on my to-do list, was to use whatever's left of that oil and that flour. I'm going to make a little cake for my son and I. I'm going to make it, we're going to eat it, and then we're going to die. I don't know about you, but I'd be looking up to heaven going, okay, so she's supposed to feed me. She just told me her plan is to die. This is her last supper, her last meal. Great, that's awesome. But again, he trusts and she trusts as well. Because she makes food for him, food for her son and her household. Because God sent him there. And God said that flour's not going to run out, that oil's not going to run out until I send rain again. And that's exactly what happens. All in. That's all in. There is no safety net in that entire story. It's terrifying, is it not? I think about what's going on in my life and I'm like, wow, I got it really good compared to this situation. And why do I complain? Why aren't I all in? When I have a massive safety net. I really do. We all do. But we're like, oh, I don't know, I can't do it because it's just so hard. There's so many obstacles. The cable went out yesterday. My gosh, the Wi-Fi's on the blink. Right? It's half as fast as it's supposed. Right? These are our problems. And God's going and I honestly think if we had a lot less of that, we'd probably be more all in because we would just be like, I need God. That's the point. I need him. That's the point of the widow of Zarephath and Elijah. And that's the point of this widow, another widow in Mark's gospel. We call her a widow, but I don't know. Doesn't Mark kind of make her out as a preacher? Jesus certainly, she preaches a more powerful sermon than any Billy Graham or anybody ever. So here's what happens. Mark 12, in verse 41, Jesus is there. He's opposite the treasure, right? There were these, they look like, I think from a scholar, they're like trumpet-shaped things, and right, you can put money in them. This is where you put your offering. And what you would do, which is really crazy, could you imagine that? If as you put your money in the plate, Susan would be like, I'm giving whatever, and give the amount. Who wants to do that? Anybody game? I thought we could start it next week. I've talked with the stewardship people, and they're cool with it. What do you think? I'm giving $2, Fred Hoover, $2, or Fred Hoover, $2,000, whatever. You would announce it to the priest, evidently. And I'm like, that's crazy. So Jesus is hearing this, he's seeing it, he sees the amount of money going in. Rich people are putting in large sums, right? And this widow comes, a poor widow, by the way, and she puts 2 small copper coins that is worth about a penny. These were the smallest denomination that existed in that area. she put them in. And Jesus says, guys, you got to see this. Not the big sums. That's what I would have spent. Admit it, when you first heard this, you were like, all right, Jesus is going to, like if you had the other part hidden, like you couldn't see it, you know what I mean? You couldn't see it where Jesus is going with this. You'd be like, oh, he's gonna lift up these guys who gave all this money because they gave such a large sums. Look at what they could do with that money. Jesus says, that's not the point. What can Jesus do with a little? What did he do with a couple of loaves and some fish? How many people did he feed? 5,000. Listen, he doesn't. Why do we forget this? In fact, you go back to Genesis. What did God use? Did he go to Lowe's and just buy them out to make the world? Say, oh, I need all this stuff. I need all the saws you got. I need all the wood you got. All the nails. All the screws. Whatever you need, right? I need some paint, right? Irene's like, gotta have paint to paint the things, right? No, he had nothing. So if God makes everything out of nothing, maybe that's what the widow Zarephath is going with. Maybe that's what this widow, who we would look down on, by the way. My gosh, the pity we would have. You know what I mean? We would not go, man, what a shining example. Jesus is saying, look, this is what it's about. This is what it looks like when God is doing his thing. When someone really believes, when they are all in, they take all that they have and they give, right? These other people, massive safety net, they won't even feel it. They contribute out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, listen to what he says. And this is really super important because he stops talking about the amount, doesn't he? Percentages. And we've been taught tithing. Tithing is good. I love tithing. I like it. I love that it's 10% because I can do that math most of the time. Anyway, I still need my calculator probably for some of that if it's big numbers. But I can handle that, and it's this expression of faith. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but Jesus is saying she put in everything. That's what was noteworthy to Jesus. All she had to live on. So maybe that means that it's all his. I read it in some of the research I was doing this week. It's a really cool kind of thing. The rabbis, I guess back in the day, had a story, right? It was of a rabbi who, again, a poor widow had given him just a little handful of food as an offering for lunch. And he was like, what is that? And he blew her off. And he kind of ridiculed and said, this is like, in other words, I'm important. You should give me a steak and egg. I want steak and I want potatoes, right? Don't give me this little handout. He goes to bed and he can't sleep. Can't sleep. Because God is telling him that woman put in her very life into that offering. Her. You know what I'm saying? Like that food wasn't just food. It was her life. It was who she was. And that's the point Jesus is saying. That's what it means to be all in. Where I look at what I give, but I also look at what I have as a gift from God to be used to help other people. Now, again, for me, and for, if you have a family, that's your family. It's not your family, right? You don't let your family starve. You're like, I'm going to give all to church, and my kids are going to starve, and we're not going to have a place to live. No. Because let me tell you, shame on me if I look at having to help my kids or my wife or anyone as being an intrusion, as being an inconvenience, as, oh, you're taking my stuff. Because God will quickly correct me. Go, no, that's not your stuff. I gave you and I continue to give you what you need so that you can bless other people. And let me tell you, the things that I've bought for my kids and the things that I've done for them and you've made them too. You've made the sacrifices. And the coolest thing is you got to see the look on their face. You got to see how it helped them to grow, right? If it was something educational or some kind of experience, maybe you paid for hockey and choir and all kinds of things, Disney trips for Katie, like all kinds of stuff. But you're like, let's make it happen, because I want her to be blessed. The coolest thing you can do is to help somebody who's hurting. The best feeling when you see, like when I've gone and gotten groceries for somebody that's hurting, man, that's the best. I'm like, that's the best. Better than going to any guitar store and buying everything. Because I know, right, that guitar, I'll want another one. And, it breeds discontentment. Whereas helping someone, man, you're exactly where you need to be, doing what exactly you're supposed to do. You're all in. And let me just tell you, that's where we need to be. And why? It's super simple. Because God went first. That woman could give because God was all in her life. The widow of Zarephath, same thing. Elijah, same thing. God had never let them down. Even though it was difficult, even though there was famine and it was looking bleak, God doesn't let the orphans don't go hungry. He rallies us. He rallies the world to help them. How many times have you been helped? How many times have I been helped by someone who's all in? I mean, at the most basic level. This one should just blow us away, and unfortunately it doesn't. We all have something called sin. And if we go back to that gospel truth, I could do nothing to save myself, and neither could you. No one could. But God gave his son to die for us. And I know that's a message we hear over and over and over again, but it's the key to everything. It's the key to how we live. It's the key to how I see money and how I see my life and my time, and all of that comes down to that. I was a beggar, I was a nothing, and he came and saved me. Hellbound, bent for, I deserve to be destroyed by him. That's the truth. But he loved me instead, sent his own son to die for me, who bled and died on the cross. That's all in. See, that's the ultimate picture, isn't it? The cross, and then the empty tomb. All in to save us. And so, we go, all right, cool. So I get to be... And I want us to think this way, that instead of saying, what do I have to give? We often ask that question. I get asked that question all the time. What am I supposed to give? And I'm like, that's the wrong question. What do I get to give? It's a much better question. Because if I'm asking that question, I realize that I'm all in. I realize that I'm on, you're on, we're in, we are the rescue team. We're the people, right? Forget the Avengers assemble, man. God's going, I want my people to assemble, to go out and tell the world about Jesus. That's what this is about. That's what offerings are about. That's what our church budget is about, so that people might know that Jesus died for them, that they might have that salvation. But we're running around arguing and doing all this other stuff. Spending our life. Could we stop and say, how am I spending my life? I know you take the time to, with this stuff, I don't want to go off camera, but the coins, you're careful about how you spend that money, don't you? But what about every moment? What about every word? What about every thought? Is it all in? Because that's where peace is. That's where joy is. That's where our hope is. It's in all of that, because I want us to be able, at the end of our days, the end of our life, to have God say, well done, good and faithful servant. Man, is there anything better? So much better than looking for the applause of people on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is. Great job. Oh my God, do we care that God would say? Because this whole series, I'll end with this. The series, the inspiration for this series, no surprise, came from a song. Any Matthew West fans? Anybody Matthew West? My wife loves Matthew West. We saw him last summer. Whew, he was amazing. Live, he's incredible. And I wrote in the bulletin the words to his song called All In. So he's got a whole album, that is, we could use that as our music for it. And the whole song is about playing it safe. Right? He's like, why do I just need to jump into the deep end, right? Because God's got me. But I'm living safe. I'm living safe. And in verse 2, he says this. He says, I believe that one day I will see your kingdom come, and I want to hear you say, welcome home, my child, well done. I want to see that. All in. With his kingdom all in. I want him to, can you imagine that? Those words, welcome home, my child, well done. Well done. You believed that I died for you. You believed that I loved you. And you made it your life's work so that we would all be in his hands and our lives all about his mission. And that's my prayer for us today. Amen.